I'm sure everyone has heard of Guweiz or seen their art. And today I wanted to do a master study showing kind of my interpretation or trying study from the way they use color and values and do a painting of my own. And I decided to choose a simpler painting. So I chose this one, but I also wanted to do it in my own way, in a way that the portrait will be a little bit different, but I'll try and have the elements of the outfit, like the hat and some parts of the outfit in there, and then really focus on color and value in the way and try and understand how they do that. Here in this one, we can see that they start with a sketch, then they start in grayscale by adding some values of what they think some of these things should be, and then they do some rough rendering, and then they add color afterwards and then finish the render. So I'm going to be doing a similar way by just doing the sketch first. I will try and render everything in grayscale first and then add color afterwards. Now before I start, I wanted to look at the painting just in general first and get an idea of how they do things. So looking at the skin, you can see they are right in the middle of the color range as far as the value, but it is also very desaturated. So you can see the saturation level is right there. And then the parts in the shade or the shadows are a bit more saturated and darker, of course. Then when it comes to the outfit, it is completely desaturated, so it is in grayscale or in gray. And then we can see the bottom of the hat also is darker and the saturation is kind of in the middle. So nothing is too saturated and the painting is leaning more towards a desaturated look. Same with the hair, we can see that it is closer to the desaturated, or where we see it on the saturation scale is more towards the left. So then I started with the sketch, and as you can see, as I mentioned, the portrait is a little bit different, the angle is different, and you can see a reference of what I was trying to do as far as the face and the portrait, just for reference. And then as you can see, after I had the basics of the portrait done and the shapes done, I added some elements of the outfit so that I can try and study those in the way that they do in their painting. So I added the hat and parts of the outfit. And then once that was done, I used the lasso tool to select the different parts of the painting that will have different values. So I had a layer for the skin, a layer for the outfit, another layer for the hair. And based on that, those were 3 layers. Then I started rendering those in grayscale. And something that I noticed in the painting, that the rendering, especially of the face, is very simple, and they didn't use too many colors, especially because it's desaturated. So I decided to use a similar approach by using a bigger brush to try and render that way first, and don't have too many details in the rendering. And another thing that's very interesting is that a lot of us think that we really need to add details into everything and everywhere. And the way they had the hat, for example, it is very rough, but very calculated in the way the places they place these brush strokes to give the implication of detail, but there isn't that much detail, and brush strokes are very rough, but I think that really makes it look really nice and drive your attention towards the face rather than focus on the hat or the rest of the outfit. The one thing that I wanted to mention is that I tried to render everything by just trying to see what I can find out from just observation, and I didn't want to color pick to find out the values every time. So I tried to do as much as possible without going back to the reference, or just having the reference there just for visual reference, and I didn't want to put it in Photoshop to use it side by side and try and color pick and try and get it as accurate as possible. And once I did finish the painting, I would go in afterwards and try and analyze and study what were the differences, what were the things that I did, and how can I get it closer to what it is and learn from those things. So once the grayscale rendering was done, I merged the layers into one layer and added a clipping mask, or added another layer and clipped it to that layer, and changed the layer mode to color mode so that I can start adding the colors. And as you can see, I really add the different colors to the face and the hat and the hair and such, and try and get it to the finished piece. And another thing that my drawing doesn't have is that earring piece that has that really bright yellow and orange. So I decided to add that kind of feel to it in the atmosphere when I was doing the background and adding a little bit of details there. And yeah, so that really brings us to the way I try to do the study. And now we'll jump into the side-by-side comparison and try and analyze my study to the original painting and see how I can improve it. So here is the side by side. So the first thing that I notice is the hat is very saturated compared to what they have. Similar to the skin, I feel the skin also is a little bit more, actually the skin is all right, but the bottom of the hat definitely more saturated. So we can go in and try and desaturate that. And the way we can do that is simply add a color mode, pick a brush. There's a few different ways of doing it, but this is one way. Is just put a color mode, pick the black, and then just paint over it, and that really desaturates the area. So it gets it a little bit closer what it needs to be. It's still pretty, and also I think the color is different. So here it's all the way to the top, and here I have it a little bit, so maybe this is what it needs to be. So it gets it closer to that. And then the other thing that I noticed is that this piece here is completely saturated all the way to the end, and mine is in the middle range. So we can add that. So we can go all the way to the end and just add those. That was another thing. And then the details on the hat are actually very interesting, and I didn't add too much there, but I think just the rough values are close. I added a little bit of a blue tint to it because I thought maybe that's what it was and not completely gray, but it is actually completely gray. So we can go in and just change that and make it more gray. And then one more thing that I noticed is that the values of the shadow part in the face at the forehead, it's a lot darker than what I had. So we can also go in and add that. So we can just go maybe a multiply mode and try and bring that in. right? That gives it a little bit more of that. And then the eyes also need to be a little bit darker like that. Even the bottom of the eyelid. I mean, I know I said I don't want to focus too much on the sketch parts. I try to have the sketch very fast and quick and not focus on the study. But it's good to do that sometimes. There we go. So I think we need a little bit more shadows here. So this was my study of Guweiz. I know it was a little bit different to try and mix two different things, try and do a portrait drawing and a study. And I think next time I'm just going to do an exact study to try and learn a little bit more. And another thing that I see is that even the shape of the hat and the angle is a little bit different. And that's why I think doing an exact study might be a better way of learning from someone else, because then I can actually study the way they also do the facial features and the different parts and the different shapes and forms that they do. I hope this video was helpful to show a study that I've done, and I am hoping to do more and more of these. It will help me do some studies and also show you my process and my analysis of different artists to see and learn from them and try and explain how I see them do things, so that hopefully it will also help you. Thank you for watching this video, and see you in the next video.